Well, it's officially been 1 week after EB03 came out. So today I will be looking at the singles, seeing how those are doing. PSA 10 prices. There is actually a sale for the Nami SP as a PSA 10, so I'll be sharing that in today's video. And I'll be sharing the booster box and what the future is headed for EB03. So let's talk about it in today's video. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I'm sure most of us can agree on this. EB03 is 100% the most anticipated set of all of One Piece. It is the most anticipated release 100%. So OP05, that one, it had a bit of anticipation, but most of the excitement that OP05 had was actually after it came out. And then that's the same as like OP13. A lot of the excitement was generally like after it came out. You know, when a box, like OP05, you could have picked it up for like 180, 190, but like it only really picked up steam once it hit, well, no, you could even pick it up for like 120, but it only really picked up attention when it hit like 200 or 250 and even 300. And then the same goes for OP13 as well. I find OP13 really got most of the retail investors in once it hit about 400 to 500. I feel like that's where you got to see a lot of people who went in the One Piece TCG enter it for the first time, buying OP13 as their first booster box. But if you were buying OP13 like sub 300, there's a solid chance that you already had a grasp of what are good One Piece sets. But with EB03, it was a completely different ballgame. EB03, the anticipation was at an all-time high. It was pre-selling for the highest pre-sales we've ever seen for booster boxes, and the set didn't really justify it. It's a good set, but it didn't really justify it. So it has calmed down a lot. Now it's 350, and it's been 350 for about a week now. It was about 320 on release, then it hit about 370, and now it's found its middle ground at 350. So it does seem like the market kind of agrees that this is what this is worth. But anyways, let's cover the singles. Let's cover the actual heat inside and discuss what is the future of this box. Because you've got to remember, there's still going to be reprints, well, a reprint in the future. This also did have blisters as well. So it's a completely different ballgame versus the other extra booster boxes. I don't know if it being part of the EB series practically even means anything because it has blisters, which the other two didn't, and it's getting a reprint, which the other two didn't. So it's like, it's barely even part of the Extra Booster series. Like it is, but it doesn't have the same effect, right? But anyways, moving on. Okay, so here's the set. So the manga has actually held up pretty well, and the Nami has held up pretty well as well. So the Nami, it didn't really sell that much for like 2,000. Technically, you've got a couple sales, especially like on eBay, you got a couple, but it definitely has found a bit of a middle ground at about $1,500-ish. Now, that's not really a lot, but at least it is sort of holding its price. However, we will see the Nami truly be tested in the future. In about 4 to 6 weeks, we can come back to the Nami and see how well it's doing. We can see how well it's been holding up. But then with the manga, it has been doing pretty well, actually. It's 1,400, 1,500, 1,600. So far, there are no PSA 10 sales for the Uta. So overall, I guess we'll see where it is headed in the future. But nonetheless, the top chase has held its price pretty well. Now, with the Nami, I'm not a hater of this set. I sound like a hater, don't get me wrong, but it's just, it was 100% overpriced. And like, you know, now the numbers kind of like agree with that. But with this Nami, I did say a couple weeks ago, I was saying like, don't get me wrong, it is a really nice looking card. But at the same time, what is the potential of it? I was saying that, like, what is it going to be? A 5 grand card? A 10 grand card? I think not. I don't think it can do that. So that was kind of my concern I expressed. And when it comes to One Piece, if you have a $350 box, the standards are high. The expectations are through the roof. I mean, if you pull a $1,500 card from OP13, that's not even a top 3 chase. But then for EB03, that's your top chase right there. So the thing is, I don't think that it really justifies $350, especially the fact that OP13 is like $500. So it's only $150 more, but the top chase is like, what, 10 times as much, 7 times as much, about that range. So yeah, that's just kind of my first thoughts there. Is like, don't get me wrong, this set is a really, really nice set. But at the same time, what is the potential? Because I would be willing to bet that most of the SPs are going to perform pretty poorly. I'd say probably the only good ones is probably the Boa, the Robin, and the Nami. Those are probably the only good ones in my opinion. Well, I mean, obviously there's some other decent ones, but those ones are probably going to be the best performers. But even then, how well are they going to hold their price? We'll just have to wait and see. But other than that, there's not really a lot here. Now, okay, if you've come from Magic the Gathering, or if you've come from Pokemon, sure, this set looks pretty good. If you look at the other SPs, you've got like 534, 461, 342. So like they seem expensive. But at the same time, something to really take to note is that with One Piece, the standards are through the roof. When you compare this box to OP14, not only OP14 has more expensive chases inside, such as the Gold Buggy. The Gold Buggy is about $3,000 as a PSA 10, about that range. This card right now, I'll just show you the Nami. Right now, this is the only sale we have as a PSA 10. It sold for 2.1k as a PSA 10. This ended yesterday. Now, this is English, I will just say. Just want to clear that up. It is English. It's not the most reputable seller out there, but he does have about like 40 good reviews, and he has bit of a somewhat established store, so I don't know if you'd want to count this as a legitimate sale considering the fact it is so early, but who realistically knows? But nonetheless, this did go on auction and it sold for 2.1k. That's a fact. Until we see more sales, this is all we can go based off. You can say that maybe it should have been a bigger seller and maybe would have gotten more sales, but that is all speculation until it actually happens. So with 2.1k, this is not as expensive as the top chase in OP14. In fact, this is going to be, say, 2.1k, right? After the Uta, there's not really much there. OP14, you have the Silver Buggy, Gold Buggy, the Bubble Zoro, and the Manga. Those are the main ones that you have. Other than that, it does start to drop off, but still, they do hold their value pretty well. But the thing is, with EB03, it is getting reprints, so it's not like you're buying into an item that's not going to get reprinted. It is getting a reprint. But also on top of that, it has blisters. So it's like any almost protection or any premium that it's an item that doesn't get reprinted kind of just goes out the door. So the thing is, if you check, it was like 550, right? And it was selling a lot for 550. And like, if you've been watching this channel for a bit, like even up here, it wasn't 2 or 3 sales. It was like 46, 84, like 87. Like it was very high volume. Whoa. Now, before we continue this video, I just want to quickly say, if you are enjoying this video, please do consider giving it a like and subscribing. It does help out support the channel a lot. I really do appreciate everyone who does do that. And then if you're not in the Discord server, make sure to join it. Links are in the description. I talk there every single day. We have really good chats there. I would love to see you join it. But then finally, if you are shopping on eBay or TCGPlayer, please do consider just using my affiliate link. All you basically do is before you make a purchase, you just click the link in the description or the pinned comments, and then I get a small kickback of the purchase that you make, and it adds no extra cost to you. So I appreciate everyone who does do that. But yeah, thank you to everyone who does do that. But let's continue with the video. If you've been watching the channel for a bit, you would know I was highly against buying this item at that price. I was saying like, heck no, this is not worth it. I basically said the only reason I can realistically see that it's that price is people have just looked at EB01 and saw that didn't get reprinted. People looked at EB02 and saw that didn't get reprinted, and they're applying the same logic on this. And I said that going by those patterns, yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to get a reprint, but we realistically don't know. And I even said that I could see this actually getting reprinted. The first EB set to get reprinted, yeah, I could see it. I said that like a month ago. And the reason is because I don't think Bandai would allow this box to be 600 on pre-order, and then it's out the gate this expensive and just not do anything about it. The difference is when EB01 came out, it didn't have demand. It's not that it didn't get reprinted because, you know, Bandai said that they want it to become the most expensive booster box and they want EB01 to be, you know, super rare. No, it just didn't have demand. When EB01 came out, it was the cheapest box. In Australia, I could have picked up which I did pick up EB01 boxes for what, like, what, 100 USD? No, less. It was like 70 USD. It was ridiculously cheap. And then EB02, when EB02 came out, okay, sure, it had demand. It was actually a pretty popular set. It was a very, positively accepted set. but it pre-sale for $600. It's a different ballgame when it pre-sales for $600. So I find that, well, at least I feel the reason why it pre-ordered for so much, this one, is because of the anticipation that the other two wouldn't get reprinted. But if you really look at it, it's like, yeah, but most One Piece booster boxes barely get any printing to begin with, let alone any printing. So the thing is that it's like, I don't really think that's like the best thing to go based off, considering EB01 was like a massive flop at the time and no one really wanted it. EB02 is not even a year old, so you can't really use that as much data. It's still in rotation. It can still get reprinted. So it's like all the data you're using isn't actually that old. So that's what at least I felt. I felt like the big reason why it was $600 was that reason. Another reason why I felt it was $600 was because of social media kind of hyping it up. But the thing is, now that it's kind of come out, don't get me wrong, it's a good set. But once again, the standards are through the roof with One Piece. Right now, it's at an all-time high. If it doesn't have like a $5,000 chase inside, people just don't like it. People just forget about it because there are other sets that do have $5,000 chases inside. I mean, this is a good example, right? This is $350 and the top chase is $2,100 as a PSA 10. Now, if you don't want to count this as a legitimate sale, I guess be my guest. Sure. It is on eBay, so it does have buy protection. So a lot of the time, like, people are more comfortable to bid on it. It is a bit weird because no one else has a PSA 10 except for apparently this guy. So yeah, it is a bit weird nonetheless, and it is ridiculously cheap. 2.1K is a bit cheap in my opinion, especially the fact that if this guy got this graded, it would probably cost him like $500 just to get it this quick anyways, so he probably wouldn't even make a profit unless he pulled it. But then just going by grading plus raw, this isn't even generating a profit, because if the grading costed like $400 or $500, because he got this graded really quickly, so he would have had to pick one of the express options. But anyways, that's besides the point. This is a $350 box, and the top chase is 2.1K, right? As a PSA 10. OP11 is $400, so it's $50 more, but the top chase is like 12K as a PSA 10. So you've got to choose your battles wisely, right? And then you may think like, all right, well, yeah, but doesn't EB03 have more depth? Well, not really, because then if you look at OP11, the next chase is like $8,000 as a PSA 10, and the next one is like $3,000 as a PSA 10. So this kind of just gets absolutely thrashed by that, and that's kind of just why I think the only reason this is done really well is specifically because of the rumors of no reprints, and it kind of just goes to show you the power of what social media can do to a box. But anyways, moving on, overall, it is holding up pretty well. Do I think it's going to go up higher than this, like the booster box, in the short-term side of things? I do. Look, it's possible, but at the same time, it is really expensive to begin with. $350 is a lot of money, and I don't really think people are realistically paying $350 to crack it open. I think people are paying $350 to invest in it or to keep it sealed. So it kind of just depends what the reprint is in June. In June, right now we're in basically March. So you've got all of March, you've got all of April, and you've got all of May, and then however far into June. So you've got up to like 4 months until the reprint comes out. So what could happen is perhaps the supply dries up. It was still a very, it was still massive shortage for this box. It just kind of we kind of just question, like, is there actually demand for it, or is it kind of just more like unorganic, right? Because it was clearly like, it was not sustainable at $600. Even though there wasn't a lot going around, it clearly was not sustainable at that price. So the thing is, yes, it's not the best set out there, but there isn't really a lot out there. So I think what could be a possibility is in the next 4 months, the supply does shrinken up, the supply does shrivel up, and then what happens is perhaps then as the reprint comes out, people are awaiting the reprint. It's actually a lot smaller than people realize, and then they just end up buying on the secondary market. That is something I probably could see happening. Am I saying it's going to happen? No, I'm not saying 100%, but it's more of a possibility, because a lot of time, whenever the word reprint gets announced, a lot of times stuff can dump really quickly, but then people question, they're like, wait, hang on, but how big is this reprint? And then the question is like, wait, hang on, but the booster box is going to be sealed, because OP13 got a fat reprint, but the booster boxes weren't sealed. They were just sold unsealed, so it basically did nothing to the sealed price. In fact, it just made the sealed price go up because people lost hope that they were going to get it sealed, so then they just bought off the secondary market. So then it's like, wait, hang on, hold up. When the reprint comes out, is it actually like a large amount, or is it mainly just the expectation that it's going to be a big amount, which causes the box to go down? This, in the future, in my opinion, could be EB01. Well, like another EB01, where it's not necessarily the best set out there, but it's more of just, it's a nice looking box. Like the pink box looks really nice, but more importantly, and this box looks really nice as well. Like I actually have one there. If you can see at the back, it does look really nice. But what I could see in the future is that this just becomes an item where there's a very small amount out there. So then naturally it just goes up because of that, not really the set being that good. So then in that instance, I would say, well, yeah, at 350, it might be worth the entry because you could have the next EB01 on your hands. But it does kind of depend how big the reprint is in June. But I did hear some sources say that the booster boxes won't come sealed, or Bandai wants like card shop owners to rip the seals. So like if there's no actual sealed boxes being added to supply, I would probably expect this booster box to do well, but I think this is going to be a box that kind of like slowly but surely goes up. I don't think you're going to see it do those sharp returns upwards. I think you're more just going to see it kind of slowly but surely go up as the supply dries up, similar to PRB01, where for like a year straight, it was just slowly but surely going up from like 180, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500, so on and so forth. Then you could see a similar situation with this. I don't think it's worth going all in on this item. I don't think it's worth, really putting all your attention into it, but it might not be the worst idea to buy a couple and just put them aside, because the facts are, it's a really nice display. The top chase is a very popular character. Overall, it is a pretty good set. It just doesn't really justify the box price, but if the supply is small enough, that can be an added feature. So yeah, that's just going to do it for today's video. Overall, it has held up pretty well. The Nami has done a pretty good job. It's at like what, 1500, so it hasn't really dropped off that much over the release. And the Uta hasn't really dropped off that much at all. So overall, it is doing pretty good 1 week after release. We will check up on it in the future, but that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.